This could be the best router and router table combo for under $200 that you can buy. But we're gonna put it through the test and find out if it's right for you in your shop. Let's go. Right out of the box, it's well packaged, I can say that. That new tool smell. All right, out of the package, this is a really solid feeling router. It feels nice. It feels well constructed, as well as my DeWalt that I have, which I actually recommend as a really good router if you want a very, very good router. Comes with a plunge base and a fixed base for about the same price you would get this set up for. Just depends on what you're doing. So this Skil is a variable speed router, which means it'll go from 10,000 RPMs all the way up to 25,000 RPMs. And where that's handy and useful is the bigger the bit, typically the slower the speed you're gonna spin that at. And the smaller the bit, the higher the speed you're gonna spin that at. If you spin a big bit too fast, you'll get kickback similar to what you see here. I just didn't dial that down. I was using it improperly. I probably should just do a video on how to properly use a router. Comment below if you'd like to see that. Now, conversely, the DeWalt is a little bit more powerful at 12 amps. You're gonna get probably about 2.25 horsepower is what they rated at. And the RPMs on that one's a little slower at 8,000 up to 24,000. Honestly, the RPMs there shouldn't matter too much. The power of the motor would probably matter if you're cutting a lot of grooves and things like that. Now this, out of the box, again, feels nice. Everything's set up well, and we'll see how it sounds when it powers on. Soft start motor, I like that. It doesn't just jerk to life like a lot of routers do. I like the soft start a lot. Now let's see how it performs. Most people who are beginners or you're just starting out using the router, the main thing you're going to be using these for are roundovers and chamfers. In other words, edge profiles. So that's what we're going to test first. We're going to do a small 1/8 inch roundover. I got that bit in there. I've got it set just flush right there with the base plate. Worked well for that application. This is just a small roundover. We'll do a chamfer next. One main thing that's going to make a huge difference no matter what router you're using is the bits. If you buy cheap bits, it's going to burn. They're not going to stay sharp as long. I prefer white side. There's a really good 4-piece set that you can pick up. It's got a chamfer, roundover, and a couple of flush trims. Probably the best value. But just starting out, if you just need a roundover and a chamfer bit, I'll put links to those as well in the description. Bit change is really easy. There is a button on there that you can push, and that locks that nut there from spinning. Then you can loosen, take the bit out, put the new bit in, tighten it up. Pretty simple, straightforward. They have a really nice adjustment on this router. You can flip that, push the button, and it gives you like a fast adjustment. So you can go up or down really fast. When you get it pretty close, you use the fine adjustment dial and dial that in just right. And then you can lock it down. It's not gonna move. Be sure to unplug that router before you start messing with those bits. You do not want to accidentally hit that switch and turn that on while your hand's in there around that bit. For the price point of this router, I'm going to be honest with you, I had low expectations, but so far I'm quite impressed. Really nice smooth cut on that chamfer as well as on that 1/8 inch roundover. A couple of really cool things and features I like about this Skil router is the fact that it comes with an edge guide, a really nice one too. That's going to be handy for an application like we're fixing to work on, just cutting a groove, different things like that. Like you'll use this all the time. Number 2 feature I really like about this is it has built-in LEDs so that you can see the work. The DeWalt doesn't even have that, where it really should for that price point. I really like that they added that on there. I like the micro adjustment dial they have on there. It makes it really easy to dial in your depth setting, and it has pretty nice dust collection fittings. It kind of encloses everything, so if you have the proper fitting, you shouldn't see too much dust, especially when you're routing grooves and things like that. Sometimes your edge profile is going to generate a little more dust, but that's to be expected. That's a 3/4 inch cove bit through 3/4 inch plywood. It cut a nice smooth groove in there. It didn't bog down after it got started. It worked extremely well. I'm kind of surprised by that with this 10 amp router. One thing I like about the edge guide is these quick release tabs are super simple to use. You flip them one way and it tightens down onto that edge guide. Flip them the other way and it's loose immediately, and then you just pull it right out. It's a very quick change. Assembly of the router table is fairly straightforward. You've got 3 bolts, 2 on the inside of this toolbox on each end, and then 1 on the back side. All you do is loosen those off. It goes into those slotted holes and then you tighten them down. It actually makes a nice solid feel. It's not flimsy at all. So far, I'm impressed with the fit and finish for the price you're getting this at. Let's see how it works. Mounting the router into this router table is very straightforward. All you do is take off the clear base. It takes 3 screws to take that out. Then you're going to take off this quick mount plate on the bottom of your router table. Take that out. There's 4 screws on top holding that in. You're going to take that out, mount that to your router, and then put it back in there. 4 screws on top, and it's ready to roll. It does have height adjustment from up top using this supplied wrench. It moves up and down like it should. It does come with 2 feather boards and different 3 different insert rings for different size bits to make sure you don't have too big of a gap there around your bit. So all in all, I think it's a solid table. First and foremost, if you get this machine, you want to make sure you clamp it down. I'm using clamps here, but you can certainly bolt it down. There's holes in each leg. But I think for bench top, if you're just going to be moving it around, you'll use those clamps and it works really good. It helps hold everything really still. If you don't, it's a little lightweight, so it'll move around on you when you're trying to route. This machine does have tool storage on each end, which I really like because each side has a place to hold bits as well as that feather board and just keep those nice and contained so you kind of know where they're at. Now the doors are plastic, they're kind of cheapy, but it's a $200 router table plus a router, so you kind of have to understand what you're getting there. The machine also comes with a miter gauge, although it's really dinky and small. It'll probably work for some small operations. I wouldn't really depend on that for perfect 90-degree cuts. You'll also want to pick up a few push blocks. I like these micro jig push blocks because they have the drop down feet on the back and that helps push through. As you saw when I was jointing with this machine, it helps grab the back of the board and push it through. These are perfect for the router table and they're really not that expensive for what you're getting. 2 places this router table shines. Number 1, pattern making. If you say want to make a bunch of charcuterie boards or cutting boards that are similar shape like this well board you see here, this thing will batch those out. All you need is some double stick tape and just go to town. Just make sure you cut the piece that you're going to be cutting out below the pattern. Make sure it's about an 1/8 to no more than a 1/4 inch all the way around that. It'll make your pattern bit work better and it'll prevent kickbacks. But this works extremely well for that application. Dust collection is an issue here, but it would be the same way on my big router table doing patterns and things like that where there's nothing covering that bit. The number 2 reason most people will buy this machine, in my opinion, is for small parts. Roundovers, chamfers, edge profiles, this thing is perfect for those small parts that if you try to do with a handheld router, you can get a little bit uncomfortable. And because you have the larger flat table, you're able to get a nice even edge all the way around. A lot of times on handheld routing, small parts like this, the router tends to dip a little bit and cause some inconsistencies in your edges. This will prevent you from doing that and just have a nice result overall. So I thought maybe I could try to joint with this router because a small router would be good for jointing small boards, especially if you're doing cutting boards or just panels or anything like that. I put a straight bit in there, a spiral straight bit, and I started cutting with it, and unfortunately the left side of the fence flexes way too much, and I figured out that the adjustment back there, that red adjustment piece you see that lets you push the fence out a little bit, in a little bit, that's where you can kind of adjust that and kind of make it a jointer, and that's very useful on a router table. But this one, unfortunately, because of that single point of contact on that red piece, it flexes left and right too much, and when you pass the bit and your board hits the left side fence, it starts flexing way too much and it causes too much of an issue to get an accurate straight cut every time. Now I tried to remove that and basically set it up as a standard fence, and that would likely work if you shimmed up behind it and you took your time and made a really low pressure cut or a light cut on each one, but I was unsuccessful in trying it. I think that's where this falls short, but the previous method shown, roundovers, chamfers, especially on patterns, things like that, I think this would work well in your shop. So who should buy this machine or this setup? Number 1, someone on a budget. If you need a router table and a router, this is a good combo if you understand what you're getting for the price. Understand you can't really do a lot of detail work using the fence, but it will give you really accurate results with patterns, roundovers, chamfers, that sort of thing. And number 2, someone who's a beginner, who's just starting out, or you're just limited on space, this may be a good option for you. Now, it's not a full-size router table such as the one I built, but that costs a lot more when you figure in material, the router lift, plus the router itself. You're looking at close to $1,000 for that entire setup, where this setup gets you $200. And it's a much smaller footprint that you can move around the shop as needed. Now, it's not perfect. It's a $200 setup, the router included, so you have to kind of understand that that's some of the trade-off here. Some of the parts are plastic and jinky and don't really work well. The fence I'm not a fan of. If you're buying this machine, just understand that fence is not great. You'd probably need to just build your own. You would be better off. There's several videos on YouTube on how to build a router fence. I would check into that and then build your own for this. You'd probably have a really nice setup then. The router table itself is fairly well made. I like the laminate top on here. Everything glides on there really nice and the dust don't stick to it, so that's a plus. But it's actually really sturdy, a lot more sturdy than I actually anticipated. Actually. Now I reached out to our 2x4 Nation and I asked who has this machine and what do they think about it. Scruffy Santa came through, you can follow him on Instagram. Scruffy said he's using his machine for Christmas ornaments, coasters, and other small parts, and he absolutely loves it. He's also building him a cabinet for his where he can store his router bits and other items. Scruffy said overall he's been very happy with his machine and it's done everything he's needed to do. If you'd like to become a member of the 2x4 Nation, all you have to do is look in the description. There's information down there. It's how we buy these tools so that I can remain unsponsored by these tool companies. The best beginner table saw for most people, you got to check that video out. Click in the box, get you the big old virtual fist bump. Or if you want to build your own router table, I got a video right there to show you how to do it.